Hi, thank you for taking the time to follow up on the Family Engagement webinar presented by Dr. Barbara Boone and Hadley Bachman from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center at The Ohio State University. This video will explain initial steps to extend your learning into application. This PowerPoint is available on the MiMTSS Technical Assistance Center website. The content for this brief video was developed based on the work of many talented professionals, families, and centers committed to furthering authentic family engagement with schools. The purpose of this brief module is to provide guidance for school leadership teams in supporting and advancing family engagement within an MTSS model, as outlined in Dr. Boone and Hadley Bachman's December 8th webinar. First, we will do a quick review of their webinar, then present ideas for you to support richer family engagement in your school. Barbara and Hadley's webinar discussed applying the MTSS model to develop expanded homeschool program partnership to support learning and healthy development of students through the development of collaborative, trusting relationships with all families, fostering two-way communication that reaches all families, and aligning family engagement activities with learner outcomes. They then discussed a tiered approach to family engagement and provided examples of differentiating support for families by tiers based on need and specific supports. What do all families need, some families need, and individual families need? Considerations for indicators for changes in intensity, how much support, dosage, how often supports are provided, and practices needing something different were shared. Lastly, Barbara and Hadley discussed 5 roles of families within an MTSS framework. If you have not yet watched the webinar, it is strongly recommended. You can access the recording on the MiMTSS Technical Assistance Center website at the link provided. In this first section, we are going to talk about getting started with supporting and advancing family engagement in your school by defining family engagement within your context. Why? We know through research that family-school partnerships are now recognized as critical to student achievement and well-being and contribute to educator work satisfaction and school climate. Family engagement is so important that it is reflected in policy, such as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act in Section 1116 and in Title I, in processes such as MyKIP, Michigan's Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, and in district strategic plans, and in measures of implementation of specific practices such as MTSS and PBIS. For example, I have listed the items in the Michigan Department of Education Multi-Tiered System of Support Practice Profile and in the school-wide PBIS Tiered Fidelity Inventory that overtly call out family engagement. The MDE My Family, Michigan's Family Engagement Framework document, talks about moving from parent or family involvement to family engagement. This document includes this great quote from a school administrator in northern Michigan. We need to change the preposition. We need to start doing with families and not to families. So how do you start to define family engagement in your school? The first step as a leadership team member is to examine your own beliefs about family engagement so you can set yourself up to help set the tone for your building for authentic family engagement. This may require further learning on your part to get there, and that's okay. Take a look at this continuum, pause the video if that's helpful, and honestly consider where you would place yourself in terms of your current view on family engagement. Consider using this set of core beliefs from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center as a checklist to assess your beliefs around family engagement. Again, try to be reflective and honest. It is easy to check true to each of these on the surface. But when push comes to shove, do I really believe that families want and can learn ways to help their children? All families? Or do I question that about a few? Do I really believe that it is the responsibility of educators to initiate and build family school partnerships? Or do I expect parents to meet me halfway, or actually that they take the initiative to reach out if they need or want something? And do I truly believe it should be a partnership? Partnership meaning equal investment, equal say in decision making? It requires some deep personal consideration. Step 2 is creating a plan to have the entire staff examine their own beliefs. There are a couple ideas listed on this slide. One might be to have the staff complete the core belief checklist that I just showed you at a staff meeting, and in small groups or the whole group, consider and discuss the overall percentage of items marked as true versus false. Then discussing whether there is any pattern in the response, such as a certain item that has a high percentage of staff who marked it as false. Would we like to see more statements marked as true? Secondly, you might have staff complete a tool, such as the Family, School, and Community Partnering Staff Self-Reflection Tool, linked here. This particular tool has 15 items, and it can be used for staff to assess their own strengths and challenges related to family engagement. The results could potentially identify opportunities for professional development, PLCs, or personal action steps. Once you and your leadership team members and staff have assessed your own beliefs around family engagement, you can begin to develop a shared definition of family engagement. As a leadership team, you can help your administrator set the expectation that development of a shared definition is necessary for everyone, staff and families, to be on the same page. This prevents us from making assumptions of a shared understanding of what family engagement means in our school, which often results in frustration from both educators and families when expectations aren't met. Here is the definition of family engagement from the My Family document, which was developed with significant input from many educators and families, as well as a review of research. Questions for you to consider as a leadership team. Do you have a shared definition of family engagement in your district or school currently? Is it different than the one on this slide? If you have one, who shares it? Was it co-developed? If you don't have one, don't currently have one that is truly a shared definition, or have one that might need to be revisited, here are some considerations. You will want to work as a leadership team to develop a plan. Rather than starting with a blank slate, you might consider reviewing existing core values and core principles from other sources, or existing definitions of family engagement or family partnership as a place to start. Consider the specific words you choose, and make sure your plan includes involving representation from all stakeholders in the development of the shared definition. Here are the 5 core principles from the My Family Engagement Framework. And these are the national standards for family school partnerships developed by the PTA based on the research of Joyce Epstein and Associates at Johns Hopkins University. And here are some examples of definitions of family partnership from various sources. As you begin to develop the shared definition of family engagement, consider the vocabulary that is used. For example, we versus educators or families, team, our, us. Also consider the 5 roles of families that Barbara and Hadley discussed in their webinar: initiators, co-designers, receivers of support, providers of support, and evaluators. Lastly, development of a shared definition of family engagement for your school should engage all stakeholders, ensuring that voices of all subgroups are represented. Use of surveys specifically addressing family engagement may be one way to do this. The bottom line is that we are a team. I have a football family, so I find this analogy helpful. On a football team, every player has a job to do and a role to play. Each player is respected for their unique expertise. Each player practices and works to become better at executing personal responsibilities. The team then works together to obtain the best results possible. Family and educators all want school success for their students. Each person, including the student, has specific responsibility which is unique and special and contributes to the success of the team. Best possible outcomes are obtained when individuals and teams interact and practice, when they respect what each player contributes to the team, and when they share goals like progress down the field that results in touchdowns. Teams support each other, slapping each other on the helmet, so to speak, to encourage each other when things aren't going well. So, leadership team action steps to consider to define family engagement in your school. Examine your own beliefs in order to be able to help set the tone for authentic family engagement in your school. Develop a plan to have staff examine their own beliefs, and help set the expectation of a shared definition of family engagement. The second set of work that you as a leadership team can support in your building is around establishing a system for family engagement. In their webinar, Barbara Boone and Hadley Bachman shared this statement. MTSS is a system to organize our family engagement interventions and supports so we can apply them planfully to maximize outcomes for students. That is, we don't want to randomly or sporadically address family engagement. We want an organized and planful system. So step 1, take inventory of current family engagement activities. Take stock, if you will, of what you're already doing that might be organized more systematically. In the My Family Engagement Framework document, you will find examples of family engagement at various levels. This screenshot shows the elementary level. Specific activities are organized based on their impact on family engagement. You might work with your staff and use this resource to support your inventory, perhaps circling the things that you are currently doing. Here are 2 other resources that might be helpful in taking stock of your current family engagement activities. Links are available on the resources slide at the end of this slide deck. Step 2. As a leadership team member, you can commit to having activities, resources, and supports for families identified and organized by tiers, similar to your Integrated Reading and Behavior MTSS model or PBIS framework. Barbara and Hadley explained this process during their webinar, so please access that recording if you haven't already. Just like we do with student instruction and interventions, we are looking at what do all families need, what do some groups of families need, and what do individual families need, and then providing that differentiated support accordingly. Consider how doing this fosters communication, builds trust, and contributes toward the concept of partnership or team. We differentiate all the time for our students, modifying and adapting instruction, materials, content, how they show us what they know, assessment, in order to increase engagement and promote strong student outcomes. Families also have their own strengths and weaknesses, complexities, problems, and questions, and we must work with them and see them more than just families. Like students, families are best served when individual variables are considered. Knowing them, listening to their stories, and understanding what will be most helpful to them in raising their children and supporting their children's school learning. Here are a couple of quick examples of what this could look like. Those of you that are implementing MTSS are accustomed to sorting instruction and interventions by tiers. Let's start with sharing results of assessments. Maybe in my school, we have all families receiving a letter with their child's results and a description of how to interpret it. For example, when my son was in school, I used to get a letter with scores and graphs about his performance on the MEP, pre-M-STEP. I remember thinking, I wonder if all parents are understanding this data. So perhaps we have a recorded video which walks through examples of what the data means that can go out to some groups of families. And for some individual families, we may make personal phone or Zoom calls to explain the results. Likewise with attendance. We could differentiate our support for what all families need, what some groups of families may need, and what individual families might need to be supported. Lastly, you might work as a leadership team to determine decision rules or indicators to know when families may need to access Tier 2 or Tier 3 support in a specific area, and also when the level of support may need to change. Think about your students. You likely have some database decision rules for when they need to enter targeted or intensive interventions, such as reading benchmark screening data or number of behavior referrals. Same kind of thinking with regard to family support. Let's look at an example. Let's go back to the attendance example I shared a minute ago. For Tier 1, every family in the school gets the Tier 1 level of resources and support for attendance. In this school, we can see that if a family has a student that accumulates 3 tardies or 2 absences in 1 month, they receive differentiated support, which is more frequent and more specific than what all families receive. And if the student reaches 5 tardies or 4 absences within a month, indicating a need for more intensive support, that individual family now receives more intensive, collaborative, individualized support. The leadership team action steps to consider for establishing a system for family engagement are take inventory of your current family engagement activities, Commit to identifying tiered activities, resources, and supports for families, and determine decision rules or indicators for access to tiered supports and needed changes to supports. I won't reread all of these steps, but this slide can serve as a nice summary of actionable next steps that you as a leadership team can take to further your work around family engagement in your school. The following 3 slides have resources and references with active links for your ease of access. Thank you so much for your interest and your time, and we look forward to hearing about your family engagement successes.